Jay-Z does an interview with Kevin Hart. Covers a whole lot of stuff. He seemed very comfortable in this interview. And one of the big things that stood out in the interview, because people had all their individual clips that they would put out, for traction on the interview and, to get views for themselves as well. But one of the big things was the fact that Jay says that he's not actively doing music right now.
Hmm.
I want to start there.
Okay.
Do you believe that?
First note, rope a dope. This is the most competitive rapper who ever lived. I do not buy that for a minute. In an ultra competitive sport like hip hop, this is our most ultra competitive guy, and he's walking around telling us, I'm not feeling that competitive. I don't buy that at all. That's like saying Michael Jordan's not competitive. That's like saying Tom Brady's not competitive. That's like saying Kobe when he was here, God rest his soul. Like that he's one of those type of competitors.
I think
Yeah.
he is the most competitive rapper ever.
Yes. Easily. Like I don't even as far as like those high level guys, it's not even a conversation, I don't think.
With the skill set to be competitive, like
Right. With the
I feel like Drake is extremely competitive, right? But I don't think he's nowhere near that skill set, in my opinion.
right.
I think
Right.
that Kendrick is competitive, but he doesn't do the things to be competitive. He just talks about it. So
He
yeah,
literally talks about his skill set. He doesn't actually act upon the skill set.
exactly.
Yeah.
The only other person would have been Big. I think Big was competitive in that way. But
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
all these dudes are competitive. It's like Meth was saying in his interview. Like, if you don't think you're the best, you ain't no MC.
right, right.
Right. Right.
So you think he's working on music and just
I'm not even saying that he's working on music necessarily right now, but don't tell me that you're not like no, no, no. Especially when you don't write and the stuff like comes in your head and it sticks the way that it. Don't tell me that. Don't lie to me. You're writing songs in your head, fam. Like because it's like who you are and what you like. We can't help it, Mike. Like I don't believe that for a second.
you don't think this is
I say this I mean this in a glowing way too.
you don't think this is a possibility? There is a possibility, excuse me, that he's just not inspired.
That could, the most striking thing about this interview as a whole to me is how little music was actually discussed.
Right.
You know, so he's definitely in a different place. One of my notes is that well, part of the reason why he looks so comfortable is because he's controlling all of these narratives. Like, notice he like barely even like I don't even think I saw him sip the wine of either glass, like the champagne or the Cabernet. Did you see him drink any?
I didn't even pay attention to that part.
Yeah, just watch him. He's always on point and making sure. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
He
Like
can't
he's
yeah.
meticulous like that. You got to be paying attention to the small stuff that man does or does not do on camera. Like the first thing I noticed, he did a toast. He set that glass down, and that's where that glass stayed. Okay,
That's
so
Jay.
he's like very, very clear. He knew the point where he said knowing and execution and like where it meets. I thought that was like I thought that was some classic Jay like rhetoric. He has what is it he says on Cashmere Thoughts when I drop the subject verb and the predicate for this rich nigga rhetoric?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now it's wealthy rhetoric. It's not rich rhetoric anymore. He's not rich, he's wealthy. So the rhetoric is wealthy. Like when he talks about uh, controlling how to spend your time. You don't control how you spend your time. You know what I mean? When he talks about having control of time, I'm like, well, you can afford to, let's say, competitively not rap for 3 or 4 years so you can do the things that you want to do with your kids to be the father that you aspire to be. And that's a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's wealthy motherfucker talk though, Mike, because people can't take 3 4 years off to dedicate to their kids and you know what I mean for
Yeah.
99%. You get what I'm saying? And
He's
so,
given up a
the
lot of
rich
his
nigga
life
rhetoric is turning to
before.
wealthy rhetoric in terms of like some of his views that he espouses. It's like you can officially tell it's like, no, he's wealthy and been wealthy for a while now. You feel me?
He sounds incredibly enlightened. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
seems like every topic, it's coming from a it's coming from a different perspective than I guess we're used to when he was active as an artist. One of the things that stood out to me, let me get to these super chats and I'm gonna get to that point. Man says he knows that he ain't got nothing to compete with Nas. Mad Max says, how Hove more competitive than Pac? Pac battled everybody. Ray Rims with the super chat says Jay-Z translation device. I haven't made music in the last month.
Correct. No, so he is more competitive. Pac, okay, so you're talking about on a battle level. See, Jay is like that too, but Jay is competitive bar to bar, rhyme to rhyme, song to song. Like, listen to the way that he's rhyming on The Watcher 2 when he knows Rakim is on there, and on Black Republican with Nas. It's like the intent of the MCs in the room is different.
And how he extended his verse on the You Don't Know remix with MOP.
Because they smashed it.
Yeah. And how he added a fourth verse on Big Pimpin'.
On Big Pimpin'. I was about to say on a can of P, my stamina be enough for Pamela Anderson Lee. MTV, Jam of the Week. Yeah.
Now, one thing that really stood out to me, too, is when he was talking about his retirement the first time, right? And he said, he was just tired. Like, he was just going at it every year, every summer.
Oh.
I never heard him say that. You know what I'm saying? It was like, it sounded very reminiscent, and I know we always bring this up, or I always bring this up on this show, of Michael Jordan on The Last Dance, when he was talking about after that first three-peat, that, he was just drained. He was just tired, coming off the Olympics, yada, yada, and Jay brought up all the features he used to do. I don't know why he didn't say that in the moment. I think people would have kind of understood a little bit more. Maybe he just didn't want to show his hand at that point. I don't know. Maybe he felt like if he admitted that he was gassed at the moment, then that would have made him vulnerable. I don't know. But I found that interesting that he said that was the reason for him, retiring that first time.
Yeah, I was actually meaning to say something. This is a quick sidebar. Jay's super inspirational, like on an MC level. The song that LP be joking about that's on my first album, Canopy, that he be joking about. I got the inspiration for that from the extra verse on Big Pimpin'. When he says, on a canopy, my stamina be enough for Pamela Anderson Lee. I was like, I could make a whole song about that bar. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right. So he's inspirational to MCs like that too, even like on his okay stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like, don't tell me that guy's not competing. It's like, no, you can hear his competitive fervor like everywhere enough so that it inspires you. Like, that's one of the best things about him.
Do you not think that maybe he has reached the point where he understands that, you know what, maybe my days of competing are just no longer here?
Well, I don't think what Nas is doing is competing, because it's like, well, when you're Nas and when you're Jay, you just really got to do that.
I think they set a different tone, though.
That is competing. You feel what I'm saying, though? Like, that is competing. Yeah.
I think Nas has set a different tone, right? I think Nas can go out there and make albums and not have to worry about how they chart, where they chart, if he has hits. Beyonce's coming out with an album next Friday, right? Mm-hmm. And the pressure for it to not only, it's going to do the numbers, it's Beyonce, right? But to actually be a very good album with some staying power, because it's getting mixed reviews on the single, right? And even though that they're pushing the single very hard on people aren't really connecting with this single like they have before on many of her other stuff. But for artists who have set tones like that throughout their career, they can't just put out an album. They have to put out a moment, It's like Michael and Prince. Prince had the freedom at a certain point in the 90s specifically, but he could just go out there and make an album that was just some good music. Money Don't Matter Tonight and stuff like that. Like,
the most
Michael had
in the
to
world.
put out big songs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's where Jay is with it, where it's like, he can't go out there and just put out a Magic. And even when he puts out like, let's just say an American Gangster, and that was a long time ago now, he had to have the Rock Boys on there.
A lot of what you're saying is valid. He's still Jay. Like, I mean, as much as I love those hits on the first album, I mean, most of his greatest hit stuff, like his best songs were on his first two albums, and they're almost not hit related at all.
Well, no, that's the problem, and we've talked about this before.
Like, how about
that's the thing with him. His best records, and that's why he always talks about his B-sides when we talk about verses. His best records are the ones that weren't the hits.
That's what I'm trying to say, Mike. I told you this, Mike. He's the second greatest MC of all time, in my opinion. Well, he's the second greatest B-side maker next to Nas, in my opinion, too. You feel what I'm saying? It's like, no, he's the second best B-side maker too, like right next to Nas. So
But
it's
the
like
success
when
of
you're
his
saying,
hits.
he can't like just go make a magic. It's like, no, part of me is like, no, you're so fucking big. Like, yes, you can. Like, yes, you actually can.
There were
Because
no
Reasonable
hits on
Doubt's kind of that.
444.
Volume 1 minus the singles is kind of that. Yes, you can.
Okay. Mad Max in the super chat says, we're talking about the same Hove that was scared to go at it with Kiss and sent beans. Pop shit and apologize. Niggas just asked Kiss. I don't think he was scared of Kiss. I think that he knew Beans had a good shot. And he took it. Man, Kiss
Beans
got
is,
some
I mean,
bodies, man.
like they're saying send Beans, like Beans is like some regular guy. It's not a regular guy.
Yeah. Yeah, Beans is probably, I mean, I don't even know who I could correlate Beans to as a number 2. I mean, is he Scottie Pippen level?
Okay, so are we done with the Jay interview so we can talk about Beans for a second? Or
we didn't even really dig into the Jay interview.
Right, let's dig
you
into
want
the
to
Jay
talk
interview
about
you're getting
Beans.
the Beans anyway.
We can
No,
talk
I
about
mean, we can kind of pick that back up as we finish the Jay interview and piggyback into it into who Beans is.
Beans is a guy who, as a second guy, and like I've said on the show before, I don't think there's anybody who's had to deal with the fact that the guy who was going to sign off on your album songs had his career in full swing. That's something the Method Man said in that interview, in the Math Hoffa interview as well, which I thought was interesting, where he said artists shouldn't sign to another artist that's in the middle of their career. I think that that's kind of more angled towards their era, and I see how that really hurt Beans. I don't say really hurt Beans, because being with Jay helped Beans as well, but he was never going to be able to put out the blueprint because the beats that were on the blueprint were not going to go to him, even if he heard them first, right? So I think that part of it's problematic. But anyway, even with all that handicap going on, Beans has an incredible catalog, and I can only imagine what he would have made if he was the flagship artist somewhere. Michael Williams says, what do you think Jay-Z's best ever flow / rhyme scheme is? Whew.
You know, his flow on the Excuse Me Miss remix, the La 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 remix.
Ooh, yeah. That's vicious J flow. First verse?
That flow is disgusting, Mike. That whole
Yeah.
Like that guy, that's up there. I mean, he's Jay, so there are a lot of those, aren't there? I was thinking 44 fours for a minute.
If we just go straight flow, and we're not talking about the words in there, I like Blueprint 2-ish, Black Album-ish Jay.
I was actually about to say, Mike, Lucifer.
Okay, Lucifer, you said that before on the show. I mean, I think one of my go-to verses is Hovey Baby, 7 straight summers. Critics might not admit it, but nobody in rap did it quite like I did it. I've done it before. You get it, I had it.
I don't know. I think that's more lyrical. Like
I was going to say, maybe the lyrics get in the way of that, where it makes me feel like the flow is, conversational flow, man.
I was actually about to say, you want to know what? I still love his flow on the second verse of Imaginary Players. And now you got these young cats acting like they slum cats, all in they dumb raps, talking about how they fun stack. When I see them in the streets, I don't see none of that. Damn, Playboy, where the fuck's the Hummer at? Where's all the ice with all the platinum under that? Those ain't Rolex diamonds. What the fuck you done to that? Y'all rapping ass niggas, you funny to me. Selling records, being you. Still, you want to be me. I guess for every buck you make, it's like 100 for me. Still, you running around thinking that you got something on me. But I done did it. And y'all want to take my flow and run with it. That's cool. And he literally took his tone down. That's cool. I was the first one with it. And then he switched his flow. Original. Jig is the future flow. Digital. Still busting the gap when shit gets critical. Sit it down. I don't want y'all to get it confused. And he switched the flow again. I rip it down. Like y'all ain't got nothing to lose. Y'all get it now? Like he literally on the last 6 bars, 3 different flows.
Yo, he really killed Mace on that record, man.
3 different flows, 6 bars.
You know what? I
Nasty.
was gonna say it's all right. Last verse.
That's what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
Jay. So there's like verses like this, like in abundance. Yeah.
We got the L Web 100 says Jay was flowing on Squeeze first.
I just hate that beat. I'm sorry. I don't like the beat. But yeah, he's flowing on there.
How does that last verse on It's Alright go? On the Jewels, I spent more money than Latrell.
Latrell.
Yeah. They know you
Yeah.
too well. You jail
But
like
they know you,
Clubber.
but
I
they know
hover
you too
above the
well.
city in a private jet. Live is set. Pressure breaks. Feds want to investigate. Mister, I don't cop nothing. Less than 8 in anything involved with my name, regardless of the fame. It's hard. I can't even walk through Harlem again. Charge it to the game. Yeah.
Platinum like American. Yeah. Oh, Mike, you know what I was thinking? Snoopy track. Flow disgusting on Snoopy track.
I love Snoopy track. I think that's one of his
saying.
most underrated records.
It is. It's probably because people don't talk about it, because I don't think people really talk about Volume 3 in his catalog anymore. Like Volume 1 and Volume 3 have seemed to kind of like dissipated for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
But some of his best stuff, like his flow on "Come and Get Me" too. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I always love that verse.
Yeah.
Inspector with the super chat says Jay is musically insecure. That's why he's always trying to do new instead of classic. Jay his fans want hasn't dropped a classic in 15 years. I think he's saying the Jay that fans want hasn't dropped a classic in 15 years. I don't know, man. I look for. I at first said I'm kind of flip flopping on this, right? Before I was saying I didn't think he was coming with anything, and then when he made his speech at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I was like, I'm looking forward to some new Jay stuff. Now after hearing this interview, I might have to disagree with you, bro. I believe him. I don't think he's coming out with anything. But let me give a disclaimer. Jay is so convincing in his interviews and his speeches and shit, I end up kind of believing anything he says anyway, so.
And this is Pac and Big included, he's still arguably the most charismatic MC who ever lived too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like never sell water to a well.
Yeah. So I believe him. He might be hustling me, but
I guess Mike, he's such a good hustler. That's part of why I don't believe him. I'm like, no.
Yeah, you don't want to believe him. Just I
already know how you get down. Like, no,
because I'm looking at the factors.
I know you're selling something. I'm not buying it yet.
I'm looking at the factors though, and the biggest factor is like, who's gonna produce this? And it's 2022 or 2023, whenever he would release it. I think that, and I say this respectfully, even though people took well to 444, I don't think it's one of those things where, let me get back in the lab with no ID again. I don't think that's happening. I don't think that he's cool with the mixed reactions that 444 has had over the years from a production standpoint, because the big points or the high points that people point to for that album is centered around him, not the production.
Well, here's what I would tell you.
Somebody said Mad Lib. That's interesting. Go ahead.
I thought about that. I thought Mad Lib would be an interesting choice just because of the more enlightened state that he appears to be in. Exactly. He appears to be a more spiritually driven man in terms of where his thought processes center themselves. You know?
Right.
When you have, I'm not even going to get into that, but your point about the whole Michael Jackson Prince thing with the whole Nas J thing in terms of how the lanes are set up. Well, he's not the hit maker that he once was. And so I get the big splash. Some of the big splash could just be the producer pairing. And so what I would tell you is that whoever was going to take this project on is going to be somebody large where it would like ring a bell hard just off the strength of Jay's doing it with boom.
Kanye West.
Like obviously insert Dr. Dre's name first and everybody goes amok, and that's all the buzz you need, and then it just gets down to the music.
Dr. Dre doesn't want any parts of that.
I'm just giving him, he's obviously the prime example, but this is what I mean. It's Jay. So if you go Pete Rock, DJ Premier, Alchemist, like it just, you know what I mean? It goes, whoa, okay.
Well, I think too, and I think the Premier Pete Rock.
And he wouldn't choose Paris. Yeah, I don't think he would choose.
And I think that just for the audience that he goes for, I don't know if their production style is where he wants to go in 2022.
How about this? What if him and Timberland were really to get together and do a whole album? Because he actually has done the most with Timberland's hip hop stuff. What if Timberland and Jay get together? That's big. That's what
I would
I'm saying.
love that, but they kind of did that with Holy Grail, and it kind of fell short.
Still hasn't done
You
the
could try
joint with
again,
Pharrell.
though.
That's what I'm saying. You can insert a lot of big names. Well, Pharrell,
I don't like where Pharrell is right now.
huh,
I'm just gonna be honest.
who you telling?
Now, I
This
don't.
is
I
not
can't really
your
speak for
favorite rapper.
Timberland. I can't really speak for Timberland, but I do believe that Jay and Timberland have a level of chemistry where they get in the lab together, they can make some magic.
I mean,
I,
it's Jay. He's capable of anything.
yeah, I think when it comes to Pharrell, I'm gonna need to know that Chad's involved to
Me
be
too.
excited.
But I'm just saying, I'm just going off of like what Jay needs, because a part of who he is that name thing that you're saying where
Yeah, you're
like
right.
it rings bells. And what I'm saying is like picking the big producer might get to skip over some of that hit making that may not be at the same high level. It's
Or
kind of
maybe
able to skip that
just
step over.
or maybe just finding an interesting pairing, like Nas and Hit Boy did. Do you think that
Very
there's a
interesting.
way where a Mike Wilmade can be inserted in this, or do you think there's a way where a Metro or
So how about this? Do you remember our conversation like when we were texting before King's Disease came out?
mm-hmm.
Where we were talking like what?
Hit Boy?
Hit Boy,
We want to
Nas?
hear Premiere.
We were like, and then you sent me the track list. I'm like, Big Sean, Anderson Paak. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, Mike, what the fuck going on, man? You know?
Oh, I like the Ski Beats thing.
I like the
think
ski
that's
idea.
dope, man. Yeah, I see a bunch of names here. I see Ye, Timbo, Swizz, No ID, Pharrell,
No.
probably Dre, Alchemist. But I like Ski Beats because I think that can give him an organic vintage sound if that's what he's going for, especially with the Enlightenment. And it'd be like an updated version of the guy that you heard back in the day. You know what I mean?
I mean, what do you think? Even though I think their first pairing didn't really go off well, like even like DJ Quick, I think that's like I look at
Yeah.
a dark horse or somebody like that. He's already done work with DJ Quick. Quick is a great beat maker.
You know what, man? I like Justify My Thug. I just think that Quick's
It
the
don't
kind of
fit Jay,
producer.
in my opinion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Quick's the kind of producer is like, look, I need your whole project. Don't give me one song. You know what I mean? Mad Max with the super chat says, Hove, all time great, but he's done. He's a snooze now. This is what the younger generation is saying, Hove. The younger guys are saying you're boring now. I don't believe that. I still got some hope. Michael Brown with the super chat says, Mike and Coop, what do you guys think Doggy Diamond's critique of Jay-Z only does interviews with Kevin Hart / Rap Radar types, not interviews with the ones that would challenge him? The Rock Nation breakup, NFL deal. Yeah, definitely a safe environment. But I think that you're going to find that with any superstar. The only one that you're not going to find that with is Kanye West. He'll jump in the fire. He don't give a fuck.
So we've spent the last couple of days talking about some interviewers from two titans and icons in rap, and Method Man and Jay-Z. Look at the framework of how those interviews take place. And this is the only thing I'm going to raise issue with both of the interviews, because both of the interviews were really good. And I can honestly say I enjoyed them both.
Me too.
For different reasons, for different styles. There's different ways, different settings, different styles, different formats to interview somebody. Job well done. Hip-hop is something that's born in an uncomfortable environment. And so there's something to me that's a little disconcerting about the need for these men who come from these uncomfortable environments to put themselves in these utmost comfortable situations like they don't have the capability of answering uncomfortable questions. They've already beat the uncomfortable circumstances. The uncomfortable question is much, much fucking easier than what you've already survived. And so just some of the protection that kind of comes with it, where you can't maybe ask certain things or go certain places. And I get like going certain places. Like there's a certain woman that Method Man was attached to, once upon a time. And if I was him, I would be like, pre-interview, hey, none of that. No, cool, bet that. Because we ain't really come for that anyway. You feel me?
Right.
At least according to hip hop doesn't.
Of course.
But look at Jay sitting down with Kevin Hart. I'm like, well, that's your boy. Meth sitting down with Hoffa. It's like, well, y'all got a whole relationship. You niggas is on the phone. Y'all had a whole thing where Meth helped put him in play and all that. And so, like, the comfort level that these guys are put into a spouse now is a little disconcerting to me. And it's like, no, some of this shit is supposed to be uncomfortable and like tenuous and like asking tough and difficult questions. It's what journalism is.
Yeah. That's how you actually,
get somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like, I didn't learn anything new about Jay. I didn't learn anything. Did you learn anything about Jay?
I'm gonna say this, and I think I might have said this before in our private conversations. At this point, I don't expect to learn anything from a Jay-Z interview. It's gonna be so controlled. But even with that being said, I enjoyed this interview. I mean, I think what you learn is where they're at currently. But it's never anything where it's like, you know what, I never knew that.
I'm just saying, this is what I'm saying. So, like, this is what I mean. Even some of the super chat questions that we get, no, those are like valid head questions. It's like, don't you think it would be cool as a music fan to ask Jay-Z, be like, hey, what's your favorite flows from what songs? Like you tell us your top 5 flows. What does Jay-Z think his top 5 flows are? Because, one of the things that always struck me around the time that he did Volume 1 or after Volume 1, he said, like, Lucky Me was one of his favorite songs. And I'm thinking, that's one of the worst songs on Volume 1.
And
so
at that point, you got to ask why. Because there's always a reason.
That's what I'm saying. And so it's like, no, that's rap shit. And it's like, this interview didn't have that, but it didn't have a lot of other things. So you really didn't get to peel back any layers like that. You know what I'm saying? You really didn't. You just got, like, guess what you got? You got that his business acumen is like all-time high. It's like, well, how long have we known that? You can tell from the tone of his music and just from the fact that you can tell just from the verbiage being used on a written testimony from a couple of years ago that spiritually he's in a different place. You get what I'm saying?
I mean, I want to know about that album too and how that came together if we're going to be current.
There was no discussion of that either, and even how that came about. Were you in the session? Did you piggyback off of some of these? Did you help fill the gaps and finish? Just like that's real hip hop stuff. Like, how did that album come together? And so it's almost like those aren't even tough questions. You know what I'm saying? It's like, can we ask those to him? And you know what I'm saying?
Jay Short with the super chat says, sorry if I'm off topic. If Big had lived, what do you think that the mythical triple album would have sounded like, especially with Bad Boy falling apart? Would it have been a classic? Based on where Bad Boy was going, in my opinion, I don't think so. I think Bad Boy was getting in more of the Jiggy era, but I don't know if that was just a response to the murder of Big either. But we can say No Way Out was already, pretty much done, right? And we can also say that More Money, More Problems wasn't an anomaly. It was where they were going. So I think we would have gotten more of that. I think we would have gotten more of Big trying to balance out that with the street records, but it might not have been as good of an attempt with, as Life After Death was. I think the more that you add on a triple disc, the more it's going to dilute the quality of what you're trying to do.
I'm somewhere in the middle. So here's what I'll also share with you. And this is something that I literally just thought about. No Way Out is probably what prompted Biggie to want to make a triple. Because think about what Method Man said. You don't want to be signed to somebody who's an artist in the middle of their career. Puff was actually using Big to help get his whole career started. While think about this. No Way Out's coming out while he has The Lox and Black Rob and Mace, and he wants to do a solo album, but pretty much featuring all of them. You feel what I'm saying?
The family.
So that probably prompted Big to be like, okay, he's doing that. I'm going to help him finish this. He's going to take these dudes on tour when he comes back. This triple album is going to be almost done, because also Big is smart too. His double album is the shortest of all the double albums, and so that triple probably would have been 3 discs, but it probably would have been 10 songs on
Yeah,
this.
like
So
10,
it
10, 10 or something.
yeah,
Um,
because No Way Out is probably what made Big thinking, no, it's probably time for me to exit stage left. He wants to be big. Puff
but
wants to be big. It's like I gotta go.
but I mean, according to them, Big pushed for Puff to have a solo career as an artist. So,
But
Michael
Big was
Williams with
also
a
planning on making a triple and leaving. Like you still don't
yeah,
know like how those conversations like
right.
really happen.
Because
But
we just
if
know
you're
what other
big,
people said.
I
Big
mean,
said.
if you're
So.
big though, and you're bigger than literally everybody except for Tupac, and Puff is like, yeah, I'm making an album. I mean, I'm looking at it just like a man and like an MC. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I'm probably going. How much
Probably
more
gonna
albums I got?
slide.
How many more albums?
Michael Williams with the super
Oh,
chat says, "Whose feature verse is better, AZ on Life's a Bitch or Nas on Verbal Intercourse?" Realizing the realism of the life in actuality. Fuck who's the baddest. A person's status depends on salary. But my mentality, money orientated.
I think
You know
we
what?
did a top 10. I think we did a top 10 verses of all time, and I think these verses ended up right next to each other almost. I think like Verbal Intercourse ended up being like fourth or something, and Life's a Bitch ended up being like fifth or sixth or something like that. So extremely like close. Like if you told me these were the two best 16 bar verses ever, I'd be okay with that. Actually, you know what I'm saying? Like
this is where I want to go with this.
I probably lean on Verbal Intercourse.
I think Verbal Intercourse.
The beat's better though.
I think Only Built for. I don't know about that. I disagree with you on that. I think Only Built for Cuban Links is the most lyrical hip hop album I've ever heard, or one of them. And Nas has the best verse on that album with Verbal Intercourse.
That's why I would lean.
But that feature he said what's the better feature?
Oh, he said feature.
Yeah. I'm going with AZ on Illmatic, with the only feature on Illmatic. And this individual verse spawned a whole career just a year later.
How about this? One verse started a legendary career. One kind of cemented like a moment for an MC. Like, that's that guy.
I mean,
nobody can rap.
It's the first time anybody outside of Wu-Tang collaborated with Wu-Tang too.
It's both of them are epic for different reasons. I still got to lean on Verbal Intercourse, Mike. I do, and it's not by a lot, but it's about what you're saying. Well, first of all, ain't nobody got to rap on a RZA beat, and the first person that does it does that, and they do it on that album. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That time, like it's 1995. You know what I'm saying? Everybody who's MCing is around, and it's like, no, nobody's better than that guy. Did you hear that? No. I don't care if it's out.
We can also look at it this way, right? Nas being the prophet and just being the chosen one at that time, everybody's scrambling to work with Nas, right? And AZ gets the call, however it happens. It's like, look, you're the only feature on Illmatic. Go. And this is what he gave us. I think that's very, very impressive.
No, like I said, it's as close could be. If you're picking Life's a Bitch in AZ's verse, I'm not gonna, I just tell you like for some of the same reasons that you gave me why it would be Verbal Intercourse for me. Because I mean, Mike, these are two of the top 5 rap albums of all time to me. It's like, well, if I think Illmatic is the greatest rap album of all time, there's only one guest verse on there, and that guest verse literally got a whole record deal. Yeah, the verse is probably pretty damn important, pretty damn special. Yeah. Like I told you, Life's a Bitch to me is a better street record, like just overall than Shook One's Part 2 because of lyrically what it provides from beginning to end because you only get one Prodigy verse on Shook One's 2.
Homeboy Blaze with the super chat says, would Jay let Westside Gunn executive produce it? That would be a good move, actually.
That would be excellent.
That would be a good move.
That's excellent.
Listen to Homeboy Blaze out there, y'all. I mean, I know some people in the camp might be watching the show, possibly, allegedly. We'll see. I think that's a good idea.
That's the best comment. Yeah.
ED with the super chat says, Jay-Z's working with a mix of current producers and vets. That would be dope. Boy Wonder, Metro Boomin, Bink, Pharrell, Ye, Alchemist. and Cardo. I don't. I think that the format of having a bunch of producers on the album is kind of minimizing. I think we're seeing more people, kind of consolidate those things and get a rhythm going with like one or two producers to do the whole thing. Because sounds are everywhere now, and I don't know
They
how
are.
well that will work for him in this point. Willard Weston says, "Where do you guys rank Jay Z all time from NYC?"
Two.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Objectively, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
when you talk about
objectively, not
everything,
personally,
yeah,
but objectively too.
yeah. Because I personally think that Rakim's the best lyricist I've ever heard. But yeah, if we consider everything, Jay Z is number two, and I had Jay at number one before Nas did this KD2 and Magic run. So Lex Diesel with the super chat says it's a good chance Jay Z really ain't active. Because he knows if he drops something now, it's ultimately going to be compared to Nas's recent work. Jay doesn't want that smoke, so he only his only move is to lay low and hope Nas's run ends. I'm inclined to believe that because what Nas is doing right now is unprecedented. None of us saw it coming. Not even the biggest Nas fans saw this one coming.
You heard how I was talking before KD won.
Yeah, yeah.
What I'll tell you to that is that's not the guy that we know though. That's not the Jay Z that we know. So that, like, if that is what he's doing, that's a different guy than we got. That's the antithesis to his competitive nature.
I think he sounds different anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like listening to 444, that's a Jay Z we didn't, historically know either.
True. No, I mean true.
Mr. Mark 66 says Nori is gonna ask gossipy rumor hood questions that we really already know the answers to. We would learn nothing. He's in a different space. It is what it is.